What's up, everyone? Tim Labossi here, and in this video, we're going to be talking about how to read your training sheet and then go over some terminology so there's no confusion moving forward. No matter what program you're on, all of these sheets are going to look exactly the same. So even if this isn't your exact program sitting here in front of you, don't sweat it because you'll be able to get some information that will transfer over to your program. First thing we want to look at is at the top of the sheet, we have the phase number, the day of that phase, and the emphasis of the day. This is super important to know what day you're on because all of these days and phases are laid out in a meticulous order so that you can make the most progress. So before you start your session, make sure you're starting the one that you're supposed to be on. Jumping to the bottom of the sheet, we have our QR code, which I personally think is one of the coolest things about our program. If you're looking at the sheet on a computer like I am, you can just hover your mouse right over the QR code. If you click on that, this YouTube playlist will pop up listing all of the exercises of that specific day of that specific phase. Or if you've printed out your sheet like I suggest you do, and I'll explain why in a second, if you just hover your camera right over that QR code, that same playlist will pop up on your phone as well. The next thing I want to go over on the sheet is these labels here at the bottom, the first of which being tempo, which is the speed of each movement. There's typically going to be three numbers listed, the first of which is the eccentric or lowering portion of the movement. The second number would be the isometric or the holding portion of the movement. And the last number would be the concentric or the lifting portion of the movement. So for this example up here, this would be a 2-second lower with no hold, and then you would finish with 2 seconds lifting up to the top. Versus this example here would be a 1-second lower, no hold, and you would come up as fast as you can to finish the lift. The next label I want to go over is the sets and reps right here. A rep is completing a movement one time. So for an example, on a squat, you would start standing, squat all the way down, and then stand all the way back up, and that would be one rep. So perfect example right here, a barbell front squat. This is 8 reps right here. So you'd go down and up 8 times, you complete your rest, and then all a set is how many rounds of those sets you're going to do. So for this example on the barbell front squat, you'd go 8 reps down and up, do your rest, and then you do another round 8 times down and up, complete your rest one more time, and then one more time, 8 reps down and up, done there because it's only 3 sets of 8. And the last label down here at the bottom is your weight log. And this is exactly what I was talking about when I said you should be printing out your sheet. With progressive overload, you need to be constantly competing about yourself. And today, you should be trying to beat yourself from last week. But in order to do that, you need to know what you did last week. So print out this sheet every single week, fill out what weight you do, fill out what reps you do, if it's an open set of reps. And then next week, you're trying to beat that in terms of either lifting more weight or lifting the same amount of weight for more reps, or if you're feeling risky, lift more weight for more reps. The last thing I want to go over is the exercise order and the exercise name. Now, the exercise name is pretty straightforward. It's just telling you exactly what exercise you're doing, but I just want you to make sure that you're reading the entire exercise. A lot of times it might seem like you're doing the same thing, but it's a 1-leg variation versus a 2-leg variation. Those things can be wildly different. So don't just gloss it over. Make sure you're reading the whole thing. The next part of this is the exercise order, which you can see before every single exercise, there's a letter. And for some of them, there's a letter and the number. And I just want to go over this quickly. So for this example, on the dumbbell split squat, it just has an A before it. That means that it's going to be a straight set. So you'll do your 8 reps of split squat, rest for your 40 seconds, do 3 sets of that before moving on to your Romanian deadlift. But in this other example down here, where there's a D1 and a D2, that means it's going to be a superset. So what that means is you're going to do 15 seconds of your 3-way groin squeeze. You're going to rest for 30 seconds. And then before you start your second set, you're going to go down, do 30 seconds of a front plank, then rest for 60 seconds, jump back up, do your next set of your 3-way groin squeeze, rest for 30 seconds again, and then complete your second set. Now, in this example, that's a superset. That means that there's going to be 2 exercises together. In other phases of the program, there's going to be trisets or quad sets, which could be 3 or 4 exercises all paired together. At the bottom of the sheet, you can see that there's conditioning. That won't be on every single sheet, but it's highlighted in red so you can mentally prepare if you know it's coming. It's read the exact same way as the rest of the program. It's just always going to be performed after all your lifting. And the last thing I want to point out is that each of these phases is 4 weeks in length. So just like making sure you're on the correct phase and the correct day every single time, you also want to make sure that you're on the correct week. So if this is your first time performing this day, then you'll start on week 1. If this is your 3rd time performing this day, then you'll go to week 3. Once you finish your 4th week, you'll move on to the next phase. Let's look at another sheet so we can get a couple different examples. This sheet's the exact same with the labels at the bottom. This has the tempo, the sets and reps, the rest, and the weight log. The only difference here is that we're looking at a home version of phase 3 peak power B. I just want to go over a couple different exercises here that might be a lot different from the first phase that we just looked at. So looking at this first exercise here, if we look at a split squat snap down, the tempo on this is NA. All this means is that you're going to complete this exercise as fast as possible. I don't want you to worry about how fast you're going down. I don't want you to worry about holding. You're just trying to be explosive through every single movement. And then looking at a completely different example, if we jump down to push up here, this is a 10-0-0 tempo. So what this means is you're going to go super slow, 10 seconds on the way down, no hold at the bottom, and then trying to come up as explosively as you can. And then you can see at the bottom here, there's no conditioning. So once you finish your last exercise, the towel bicep curl, you're going to jump right into your cool down on the warm-up sheet. The perfect segue here, we're going to jump in and look at the warm-up sheet now. Just like the last sheet, QR code here down at the bottom. If you click on this, all of the exercises will pop up just like on the workout sheets. Now, the layout of this sheet is obviously a lot different than the ones we were just looking at. So let's pop up here to the warm-up segment of this sheet. It's broken down into 3 parts. We have mobility, stability, and dynamic. On each of these, I try to make it as easy as possible. You're just going to run through 1 set of all of these mobilities first, 8 reps per side. Then you're going to run through 1 set of the stability, obviously a lot less exercises, but for 8 reps per side as well. And then for the dynamic, you're going to find a strip of turf or some space outside, 10 yards, and run through 1 time of each of these. Once you're done with your training session, you're going to pop back onto the sheet so you can do your cool down. The cool down for each phase is going to be almost exactly the same. There's going to be 3 exercises, and each one's going to be done for 5 breaths on each side. But I want you to do the breaths very specifically with a 4-second inhale through your nose, an 8-second slow exhale through your mouth, and then before you complete your next inhale, you're going to hold your breath for 4 seconds. Now, I just want to make this crystal clear that the warm-up and the cool-down are absolutely mandatory. This is the only mobility and stability work done throughout the entire program. So if you skip out on this, then you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. With that, though, this is also just a minimum effective dose, so you shouldn't be adding anything extra to this. Remember, we want to stimulate, not annihilate. Now that you know the ins and outs of the program, it's time to go get after it. Let's go.